Welcome in, everyone, to Barely Educated. We are here to talk about the Bears Vikings offensive explosion that they put on for the beleaguered nation last Monday. Now, Wednesday morning, Bears are on their bye week, so we figured we'd kind of do a midweek episode. It's tough for us to do a post game on a Monday night with full slate of classes Tuesday morning. So here we are. Chris, as always, is joining me. Chris, how are you?
Not bad. This is the last week of classes, so bunch of concerts to get through, and then finals to write and all that. So, the bye week came at a
Yeah.
good time.
Put that through your mind.
That's true. I get the study guides up and then finish the exams. And we finish class Tuesday, and then I basically do the exams from there and wrap
Cool.
up next week. Yeah,
Nice.
end
Yeah.
is nigh. But is the end nigh for the Matt Eberflus era?
Oh my
See what I did there?
gosh. Yeah, that was a great transition. You know what?
Segue.
I am getting this spider sense tingle here that
Uh-oh.
that the Eberflus era may not be over next fall. But there will be a new offensive coordinator. I'm not saying I think that's what's going to happen. It's on the horizon, like peeking over. You know what I mean? Just because the defense has improved, it still hasn't beaten a good team yet. And last time they played a good quarterback, they got throttled by Justin Herbert. And
Yeah, still a glaring problem is they're just beating bad QBs.
yeah, but I don't know, just with the narrative of the defense getting better and most fans ready to, say Justin Fields' problems are mostly because of Luke Getsy. I could see Getsy being the fall guy and the endorsement polls get I don't know. I'm just wondering if that's a possibility.
Sure, it's a possibility. They're the Bears. They'll probably do the dumbest, worst thing that they could do, which is keep Flus, fire Getsy, draft a QB, and start the whole thing all over again with lame ducks and not being synced up.
That would be
But
worse.
in that
Yes.
scenario, you'd also be asking Fields to learn a third offense in 4 years.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying you're wrong. I mean, I do think it's one of the scenarios in play for sure because Matt Eberflus is coordinating much better than Luke Getsy is
Yes.
in general. The defense is playing pretty well. But again, like you said, it's not really against great competition. I mean, giving up 10 points is a good game no matter who you play.
Sure.
Four
Absolutely.
turnovers is as much about Dobbs as it is them, but they were opportunistic.
Mm-hmm.
Could have been 5 with a pick 6, right? I mean, this defense is not the problem right now, but we need to see him play a real QB. But who is that on the remaining schedule? Goff. They played well against him in Detroit. Now they get him at home after the bye, and then you get
And Goff is not
whoever
good.
Cleveland plays.
Yeah, whoever. That's right. What about
whoever Atlanta plays,
the resurgent Jordan Love,
and then Murray and Love. So like the version of Jordan Love that played Thanksgiving is the best QB on the schedule if that's the guy they play.
Right.
And shout out to him. He's on a decent little run here, and he seems to be making some strides. We'll see. He did play really well against the Lions, as did our QB. But the point I'm trying to make is the defense might finish looking really good too, which is a little bit alarming for those of us who do want the head coach gone because he is going to have that probably to hang his hat on. And I can totally see the Bears falling for it as if it's a sustainable way to win in this league. Give me a break. But the hiring of him was stupid to begin with. The keeping of him will employ the same stupid logic. That is definitely my biggest fear is that plus drafting a QB.
Yes, please don't get me wrong.
If you want to keep him and run it back, that's a little better. And then punt the QB decision for a year. I don't like that at all, but it's not the worst case scenario. The worst case scenario is being off schedule again,
right,
in a lame duck scenario.
And I'm not saying that's what I want. I'm just saying I'm seeing that as a possibility on the horizon. That is not what I want. I bet these players, this defense would be even better in a system that was not so antiquated as the cover two. However, I mean, getting a good player like Montez Sweat on the line, that elevated the entire defense. So
Yeah, which Poles called him a, what did he say? He was an elevator or something. There was something some
Multiplier.
term he used.
Multiplier.
Multiplier.
Mm-hmm.
That seems to be true. Montez Sweat's playing really good ball. It looks like a good trade as opposed to the last time we traded a second rounder.
Yeah.
But yeah, and we should get back to Poles in the roster before too long. But while we're on the coach, everything is on the table, as he likes to say. Nothing's off the table. So I
Nothing's
think
on
what
the
he
table.
meant with his gaff the other day, is there table? The other day when he got all confused a month ago or whatever now. But I think he's running less cover too. He's mixing it up more. They ran a really nice stunt, which got him a sack where they had Ngakwe and Sweat lined up together. They've played Sweat at the 3-tech a couple times.
Oh.
He is being more creative. I leave the last couple games saying, okay, until the last few minutes of the Detroit game, he's called a good D, and then he called a good defensive game plan against Minnesota. But at the same time, let's have higher standards, guys. Do not be seduced by the moments.
Right.
This guy cannot manage the end of a game. He absolutely is the reason you lost to the Lions. Do not let him off the hook for that just because they won a god-awful game against the Vikings. He's still way over promoted and should be a coordinator somewhere, not your head coach.
Yep. Denver too, that definitely contributed to
Denver. They blew that game.
Yep.
Justin had a part in that, sure.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
I think the fumble touchdown, you win the game if that play doesn't happen, obviously. But
True.
I'm not letting Flus off the hook just because there's been improvement on the D. And that's good on the players. And it is to his credit to a point. I just don't think it's enough.
Mm-hmm.
Even if they have 5 more good games defensively, I don't think it's enough. Because let's say you fire Getsy. Now Fields learns another new offense. Let's say that guy's actually good. Guess what happens to him?
Poached.
He's gone to be a head coach. You get to keep doing this. How many good coordinators did Matt Eberflus have in the coaching tree? Because so far I see 0.
The ones that didn't get fired.
The one he just hired. I'm serious. Like, there's no sustainability with any of this, and that's why I'm so determined to harp on this.
No,
Get a good offensive mind in here. But I will say this is worth talking about the contrast that we saw in the score between what Brisker said about the defensive coaching and what DJ Moore said about the offensive coaching is remarkable, glaring, and perhaps actually a problem for the head coach too. Those of you that don't know what I'm referring to, on Bernstein and Holmes, Brisker said that the defensive coaches would basically ask the players what they like to do, and they'd get a lot of input from the players for the game plan, the calls, and moving them around. And we are seeing that has actually been pretty effective. Like, let's not pretend otherwise. It's been pretty effective.
Yep.
But Moore said on the morning show, Mully and Haw, that they basically didn't consult the offensive players very much. It was basically, here's the game plan. Do you have any questions, kind of thing. And I thought, well, that's pretty crazy that the staff has 2 totally different approaches. To me, that suggests that Eberflus is way too hands-off with the offense, which is not what we were sold when he was hired in the first press conference. Remember, he was going to reverse engineer what the defense is doing and be very involved and help the QB develop. And now you're telling me philosophically you take a completely different approach to player input between the defense and the offense? That tells me that you're just letting the offensive coordinator do his thing, and you should not be doing that.
Agreed.
He has not earned that pedigree.
I think he's an absolute bum.
Do you think part of it's because Flus is doing double duty, that he's maybe focusing too much on the defense and not the CEO overseeing everything, and the offense is just kind of
maybe because he's had to double up with the Alan Williams thing. I mean, Alan Williams was awful at his job too, though.
Which we still don't know what happened.
I'm just, can we just please not fall for the moment and not let him off the hook? It's been a dreadful 2 years. It's been full of weird stories with the coaching staff. Well, 2, which is plenty. No one else has any.
That's right.
2 is enough to be annoyed. And all the players are still playing for him. That's a bare minimum.
Mm-hmm. No pun intended.
This is my theme, right? The whole theme for the whole season and the whole off season. Let's all have higher standards. Or as Parkins was putting it, dare to be great.
Dare to be great.
Right? And that does impact the coaching decision is part of that, I should say.
Mm-hmm.
But also I'm trying to be a fan who can like appreciate the progress too. And I think the defense has made strides. I mean, the roster has made strides. We'll come back to the QB thing, but
Well, these
this is
players,
not a complete crap fest of a football team anymore. They're bad
right,
in some
right.
spots, but they're good at some things too. Whereas last year they were just awful at everything.
Yeah, and the players are going to be around with the next regime, so that it may
Enough
probably
of
even
them. Yeah.
better. Like I think, yeah, enough of them. A lot of the young, good players are still gonna stick around. Like we didn't lose Brian Urlacher or his potential when Dick Duran was fired. So a lot
Yeah.
of the good players that they have that Poles has gotten on this team are going to be around into the next regime, and no reason to think that there'll be any drop off in the next regime. I don't think. I don't see.
I think we talked about this before too. It's always fair. It's always worthwhile to reevaluate things with new data points. And I think the person in the conversation that really deserves that right now is Ryan Poles. All of a sudden, you're sitting there going, okay, Montez Sweat's playing really good, and it does make a difference. And Jervon Dexter's starting to get it.
Yes, he is.
And Tyreek Stevenson was starting to get it before he got hurt. Terrell Smith looks like a gem in the 5th round. Braxton
Yes.
Jones is kicking butt since he came back.
Yeah.
We already love Darnell Wright. Kyler Gordon had himself a game. He looks good when he's healthy, and they only ask him to do the one job, and he does both aspects of that job well. Brisker had a pick. I'm sitting here like, hang on. Velus Jones is terrible. The rest of these draft picks, I didn't love the box safety in the second, like the logic there, but
yeah,
the rest of these draft picks are like he's drafting pretty well. I'm kind of like, I don't know if I'd fire a young GM who might be finding his stride in the draft. This last draft looks pretty good.
Isn't that his most important job?
And he fixed the tackle position in
Yeah.
a year and a half.
Yeah.
Both of them. I mean, it's not perfect, but I went from last year just like hating the plan and thinking talent evaluation was a huge problem, but liking the asset management to now thinking, okay, but some of the talent is showing out now, and you're starting to have more positive check marks in the ledger for polls. And I think there were those national reports a week ago about Warren maybe cleaning house, which you could still make a case for. But now I'm thinking like, I think I'd tell polls, keep doing what you're doing in the draft. Let's get a different coach. Here's the process by which we need to get a better coach, because he's doing enough well as a GM that I don't think I'd pull the trigger there anymore as we sit here right now.
I agree. I think that's the most likely scenario for next for the offseason is Poles gets one more swing at a head coach, which most GMs get at least 2, right? So,
and we don't really know how much he got to say in the first one. We know it was down to 3.
Yeah, well,
and if he'd have pitched a fit and said, I don't like any of them, would they have let him? I really don't know. That process sucked too.
Yeah, and that's troubling if he did.
You should hire the GM and let him do a coaching search, not give him a predetermined short list.
Yeah, well, he owned it. He said he found his guy, so...
Yeah, but he's not going to do anything to make the owner look bad. I don't know how much to make of what's been said publicly there. Just like vote of confidence that he gave Eberflus is easily canceled at the end of the year by saying we didn't win enough.
Yep, that's right. He did choose his words very carefully there. Yes, that's right.
But I am lying if I don't admit I'm worried they will win enough to convince themselves to keep him, because the schedule's not hard. Especially if Myles Garrett's out against Cleveland.
Yeah. Oh, boy.
He was in his sling at the end of the game, so I don't know. Way too early to say. But you're all of a sudden looking at Goff, backup, whoever the Browns play between their two, right? The rookie or old friend PJ Walker. And then Murray, and then Desmond Ridder, maybe, and then Love. I mean, they could win a couple of those games and all of a sudden be like, look, we doubled the win total. I mean, you can just hear it, can't you?
Yeah, I can. I've been to enough Bears rodeos to... that's what I'm saying. It's on the horizon. That keeping Flus, it's on the horizon. I don't think that's what's going to happen, but I'm not 100%, and that makes me a little nervous. So, yeah.
Also, shout out to him on a personal note, a human note, for his work on ALS. His father has it. I did not know that. He just received an award from one of the larger ALS foundations and gave a speech for all his work for like charitable efforts for it. So still seems like a good dude.
He
I
does.
just don't think he should be the head man of a football team. It's kind of like the Norv Turner thing, right? Where he's like a good coordinator, but it never worked when he was head coach.
Good.
Some of these guys get that over promoted thing. So we'll see there. But I do want to circle back for a second to the roster before we, lose ourselves in the QB conversation for the rest of time.
I promise not.
A lot of, like we said earlier, young players playing well on both sides of the ball. We're seeing progress. Let me ask you this. What do you think are the biggest 3 needs or holes on the roster? Because I think going into the season, it seemed like there were a ton. And I think if we're fair to polls about it and to the development and some of the tracks people are on, there aren't near as big of problems as we had once thought. And I think that's something to be encouraged about when we're often very irritated.
Yeah.
What do you think the biggest holes in the roster are now? Because I think it's changed quite a bit. One constant. There's one that's still a problem.
Okay. Edge. Are you thinking edge? We need one more edge rusher.
You suck, Chris.
We could still use one, but right now they're okay. DeMarcus Walker's playing better, and they move Sweat around that frees up the other guys. They're definitely going to need one in the offseason, but I don't think it's the glaring hole after the trade. You still need a complementary one. It's like receivers the same way. You've got your star. You need a better complementary piece on the other side, just like at receiver. But I don't think it's this terrible pit of nothingness. I would say 3 technique, you could get a better veteran, but man, Jervon Dexter sure looks like he could fill that role if you keep getting him snaps. I mean, it's a need, but I don't think it's glaring. I think the only glaring need right now, I mean glaring, I'm not saying the roster is done. I'm just saying holy cow, please fix this, is center.
Oh, yeah, sure, yeah.
You idiot!
And we went into the season saying edge at both sides, 3 techs, second corner, center, maybe wide receiver 2, which I think is still a need, but maybe glaring is a bit much because how good DJ is. But I just think this roster has actually come a long way.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's another reason why you might circle back to getting rid of the coach, because you're like, hey, the talent is better than a team that lost 14 in a row. You know what I mean? You should never have lost 4 in a row at the beginning of the season.
Yeah, and that's why I said earlier, too, that talent is going to transfer just fine to the next coaching staff. But, yeah, you're right about center. I don't know why I didn't think of that. They're a good center away from being a really good offensive line with the starters.
Yeah, and we would have said tackle might have been another one coming into the season. But your guards are good. Your right tackle looks really good for a rookie. Sky's the limit there. And your left tackle is playing great.
Yeah.
Actually, people are sleeping on him, and I'm actually surprised to say that because I thought he was so bad against the bull rush. But he's developing. That's what you want,
right? Yeah, and if you don't hear his name, that's good. As an offensive
highest graded guy on the team, I think, in the last game or whatever. I mean, he was really good.
Yeah.
So there are things to be encouraged about with what Poles has done, and if he has another strong offseason, you can set the bar high enough to say we should be in contention for this somewhat mediocre division and for a playoff berth. No one's saying they're catching the Niners or Eagles next year. We're not saying that, but we should expect better than what we've gotten the last 2 years record-wise, and if that requires a new coach, sign me up. We'll see. I just wanted to make sure we had that conversation before we get to right by the QB.
But that reminds me of something Matt Spiegel said the other day. I don't know if you heard this or not, but he said he believes that Matt Eberflus was hired to be fired. Did you hear him say that?
He's their what was that guy on the White Sox that they hired for a second?
Yes, and he did the same thing on the Cubs too.
David Ross. That's right, because they hired a guy and then immediately hired Joe, right?
Yeah.
Second,
he had 1 year, and then got Joe, yeah. But yeah, I can't remember his name. But yeah, that makes sense. Bring in a guy who can hopefully solidify the floor, and then thank you. We appreciate you making us not terrible. Have a nice day. I don't know. That's possible too, I suppose. But hired to be fired.
I would love that, because that would get me the only thing I truly care about, which is a new coach who's from the correct side of the ball and can make a quarterback develop a quarterback or whatever.
That would also suggest too that Poles did not think Fields was the guy long term, but okay for a couple transition seasons. That's possible.
Yeah, what if the plan was? I mean, I've been wondering this for a while because of last year's brutal roster.
Mm-hmm.
How did he convince George to hire him with this plan? And I don't know, but like, what if it? And this is total speculation. Okay, I'm just having fun thinking out loud.
Yep.
Former student Tim, you do not need to quote this back to me a month later in some group text. Okay.
Shut up, Tim.
But what if he was like, look, we're going to bottom out. We're going to start this over. I'm going to build this right. I'll hire one of your three coaches with the understanding that they're not my guy. And then you'll let me get my guy when I think this roster is close enough to win. And that's how we're going to play this. I mean, it would be feeding Eberflus to the wolves. I don't know that they're that sinister, but at the same time, they don't have to have that much pity for him. He's still going to get paid whenever he gets fired. You know what I mean? That's like, oh, boo-hoo, I'm still a millionaire, you know?
Yeah.
But I've always wondered, how did he convince Mr. I'm a fan too, to go along with the plan? You know what I mean? It just seems unbears like, but the full rebuild made sense in a lot of ways too. And like, we're sitting on a pile of assets.
If that's the case, that's kind of brilliant then on Pole's part.
Because the coach never made sense for a guy coming from KC used to play O-line to then hire Eberflus. It never really added up to me. So I don't know. It's all too conspiratorial to really have any validity, but I will always wonder how those conversations went. And they do share an agent, let's not forget.
Yes, right. That's true. That's true.
Just saying. All right. We've avoided it for a while now. The quarterback conversation and the OC conversation and the holy cow, what was that game plan?
Yeah. Can we start there with the game plan?
Sure.
What do you
take it away?
The two overarching theories that I've heard about the game plan. One was that Getsy doesn't trust Fields to read the blitzes, get the ball downfield. The other one was Getsy was just so worried about the blitz that, well, we don't want that to be a threat to us, so let's just get the ball out quick. And there's some overlap there, but one suggests I don't trust my quarterback. The other suggests I don't really know what to do other than get the ball out quick. You know what I mean? So
yeah, I mean, clearly the plan was to try to beat the blitz with the horizontal passing game and make the Vikings tackle, right? Like, get out, try to get the blocks set up. But they did so many of them, it was just comical.
Yeah.
And some of them look like they were maybe RPOs, off of RPOs. So I wasn't sure if they were 100% screens, but they're horizontal either way.
Yeah.
And then you look at the pass chart, and half of the green dots are behind the line of scrimmage, and it's like, ridiculous. Wow. Matt Nagy is thrilled somewhere in Kansas City looking at that game. And you know he's going to try to top it. So apologies to the Chiefs. It's coming. He's got a competition now for the horizontal game. And then you see plays like the one where they throw the screen to the big guy, Komet, and have the little guys fail to block for him. Like, they're all three right there. He's the one that should block. This is not rocket science.
Why are you having Mooney block for Komet? Exactly. I don't. Makes no sense at all. No sense at all. So I lean towards the Getsy. So, I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah, I think, circles back to a point we've made a while back. Like, stop hiring coaches across the board who've never done the thing you want them to do.
Yeah.
Like, you can have one or two of those on a staff and you'll probably be fine. But when it's like, okay, this guy's never been a head coach and this guy's never called plays for an offense, and this is the first time this guy's coached a QB, it's like, the staff is so inexperienced. And like, somewhere you have to have established pedigree in the position coaches too. But I look at games like the Vikings game and I see a still very raw, inexperienced offensive coordinator going up against a very experienced defensive coordinator who so often had 6 and even 7 Vikings on the line of scrimmage pre-snap. And I'm like, where is the quick slant?
Yep. The one
and
play
DJ's great with the ball in his hand to see the Commanders game, right? You give him a quick hitch and go kind of stuff. or just a hitch and he makes the guy miss on a spin move, right? Like there's other ways to beat the blitz, as Warner pointed out on Parkins and Spiegel. Like he's like,
Many
there's like
ways.
1,000 ways to do it.
Yeah,
Like you can tell how exasperated like the nicest guy in the world is watching that game.
He's like, yeah.
But I also
like
felt
Ned
like they don't
Flanders,
trust Justin to make reads quickly.
But the thing is, he showed the one time they actually did try something like that, the 4th and 10 to Komet. I think Minnesota sent 6 guys in, and Fields stood there and got, Komet took, blocked a guy and then just spun out right in front, and Fields got him the ball. They got a long first down conversion on the 4th down. But they only did that once. So why not do that or something like that again? I don't understand. And that was 4th and 10. 4th and 10 early in the game. That was a gutsy. Like, I loved
that's
it.
another thing.
I loved it.
And then to not do it on go for it on 4th and 2.
I know I don't get it.
Those scatter shot. That's why I wanted the coach gone. It's stuff like that. It's like there's no consistency or analytics to the approach. It's just like I hate all the gut feeling stuff. No, it has to be better.
Yep.
And there's a reason they kick all the field goals because they're so passive in the red zone some games. And some games they're aggressive and some they're not. It's just maddening. But that was a crazy sequence.
That's all
John to actually convert the 4th and 10 call with the play to commit. That was a great design.
Yes.
Every now and then Getsy's in his bag and it's like really good.
I know.
And then it all falls apart again.
I
think at minimum we can say the Getsy Fields marriage is a bad one.
Yes, that's over.
At this point. I don't think we need more data points on that.
Yeah.
It's not great.
They are not working well together.
Let's write the Catholic Church and see if we can get that thing annulled somehow. But Fields is a mess all too often too. Like he's a tough eval also.
Let's get into that.
Yeah. We have to talk about it because he was okay. I mean, it's a weird game plan, and coaching certainly a huge part of any analysis of him. And then you get to the 4th quarter, and he's terrible again. The 2 fumbles. I mean, he's like the worst 4th quarter QB of all time by the stats. His QB rating is a 5. That doesn't even count the fumbles. I mean, that's abysmal, guys.
That's not good.
So that just simply cannot continue. I'm sorry. I love Justin. I want it to work out. And it's like, gosh, that stuff's got to change. But then he got the monkey off his back, I hope, with the big throw to Moore.
And that's the question. Yeah, how was that a career trajectory changing play or just a fluke in the moment? Because Minnesota did not blitz up; they just rushed 4 on that play, and he had plenty of time.
They did to prevent the most aggressive D coordinator in the league is like, oh, we're just going to milk the clock and let you have yards. And then he torches them for that's so funny. I was like,
after they
all you had to do is keep blitzing, probably.
I know they couldn't do anything. They just would have kept trying the horizontal stuff. And I don't know if you recall or not, Fields, that 3rd drive before he hit that pass, he looked jittery and
well, he got away with the grounding, or at least the borderline one.
Yeah.
It was borderline. Like the call went his way on that one, but it would have been controversial probably either way.
Yeah, and
but it was a bad play. Is the point.
And Joe Buck at one point said like, "Gotta throw it" or something like that. Like, yes, Joe.
Oh, I loved Buck and Aikman. They were fantastic.
They were really good.
I thought the broadcast was great.
Gotta give them
a shout out to that broadcast because it doesn't drown you with nonsensical narratives that you just are dying to have stop. They're just calling the game. I appreciated it. Agreed. But then then Fields makes a throw that he needed desperately.
And it was a great
throw. My wife after the second fumble, and they got the close up of him coming off the field, and she's like, "Oh, he looks so sad."
He did.
I'm like, yeah, I'm sure he's so disappointed in himself right now. He wears his heart on his sleeve in a sense. Right? He loves his teammates and he wants to win, and you just like all the character in the world.
Yep.
And so then for him to make that throw, I was like, good for you, Justin. And probably any QB in the league can make that throw. That's how open Moore was. But Justin needed it like few QBs.
He did.
You know what I mean?
And not with that much zip, though. That was a dart.
It was a dart. But like he was wide open. Right? It wasn't like a high degree of difficulty or anything.
Yeah, but
I hope it helps him get the monkey off his back. I really do.
But can we complain that he doesn't hit wide open receivers and then complain that, well, the guy was wide open? You know what I mean? Like,
well, no, I'm just saying, like, he's done crazier stuff before because he's done way more athletic stuff before, but I was happy for him nonetheless.
After
Like, it wasn't hard what he did, but he did it, so that's good.
Yeah. Okay, I got you. After that second fumble, I thought that was it. I thought that was the end of the Justin Fields era. Did you feel that way at
So
all?
did I. I was like, oh, yeah, I did, because it was another fourth quarter collapse, and you just can't keep a QB who constantly falls apart at the end of the game. Now, last year, some of that was on the teammates too.
Yes.
Right, but like he did it against Denver. That should be a win. That game is a win.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, you hold the leads against Denver and Detroit, and you're sitting here at 6-6.
Oh my gosh!
In the hunt.
In the hunt.
And you can kiss firing the coach goodbye if that's the case. So let's maybe be grateful.
Yeah, that's.
I don't know.
That's true. That's true.
Can I just also say I'm so tired of having to be torn between all these things and just like feeling.
I know.
Like okay, we got to get the coach out of here. Okay, we got to lose. Like, I don't want to watch losses.
Yeah.
Oh, we need the draft position. We got to lose. Yeah, but when I'm watching the game, I don't want that. You know what I mean? Like, it's really frustrating.
I am total
to keep being in this position.
I should record myself during a game sometime. Well, it'd probably surprise no one how I.
Oh yeah, that would be a. Yeah.
You think I'm a meatball here, folks? Just watch me during a game. Oh, it's
you wait.
Yeah.
All right, I want to read a tweet from friend of the pod, Max Markham.
Okay.
Who, to be frank, has been kind of all over the place on Fields this year.
Yes, he is.
You can tell he's really wrestling with it.
Mm-hmm.
Ryan Poles, your career's on the line with the decisions you make this offseason. You make a list weighing your options, and then he's got lists with the little green check mark. Everybody knows the little check mark. Pros to keeping Fields. Strong leader. Yep. Liked by everyone. Yep. Unbelievable runner. Yep. Has the physical and mental traits you want in a QB. Yep. Keeping him can maybe get you a great wide receiver prospect in the draft. Yeah, you could just take Harrison at 1 and be done with it. Won't upset the fans. Mostly, yeah. I mean, the fans, I think, are split on QB way more than we're split on the coach.
Yes.
But sure. Okay. Pros to moving on from Fields. You can get a rookie QB of your choice. 2 really solid prospects. And we should note the Bears are sitting there. What is the percentage now? It's like 58 or 7 or something.
Yeah, it's like
close to 60. That Carolina gets them to 1.
Mm-hmm.
And that's going to keep skyrocketing with every one of their losses. You got obviously a really good chance there. You may never be in this position again, Ryan Poles, in other words. Do you let it pass by? Okay, the next one. Do the odds favor finding an elite passer with a rookie of my choice or with an inconsistent passer in his 4th year? 2 NFL OCs couldn't unlock JF1. Am I willing to wager my career a 3rd will? You can likely get 3 years of extra time developing your own QB. That is a real factor. Or 2 years before Justin's time's up. So yeah, 5 with a rookie. You only got 2 with Justin. And if he drafts a rookie, he extends his time on the job. Probably is kind of the point there. That's a frustrating reality of the league, the way that it sometimes works, but not always. Okay, that was me, the last bit. Okay, next one from Max then. You won't have to give JF1 a 2025 $22.5 million guaranteed option, but you have to make that decision in May. And you can get your 2nd round pick back by trading away Fields, if not more. Lastly, you will attract better coaches if they get to pick a QB they can develop from scratch. And then he asks for thoughts, and the comments are basically ridiculous. So I don't mess with any of that.
What? Twitter comments ridiculous? I find
what a shock.
I take one little issue with one of his points for moving on from Fields, and that's 2 offensive coordinators couldn't unlock Fields. And yeah, that's technically true, but these have not been 2 good offensive coaches trying to unlock Fields. So
it's also
just a phrasing thing, you know what I mean? But anyway, that's it. Otherwise, I think that's
I don't like the logic of that point either, because that's like saying the Bears shouldn't hire an offensive coach because the last 2 didn't work out.
Exactly. Good comment.
It's like, so what? Make a better hire is the point there.
Yes.
But I think the reality is, I was going to say, I think the reality is really muddy, because if you have the number 1 pick, that changes a lot of the discourse versus if somehow Carolina ends up giving you the 3 pick. You know, like that immediately I go, I'll keep Fields and pick Harrison. Hopefully 2 QBs went 1 and 2 if I'm sitting at 3, right? Like, I'm not trading up to pick a QB when I have to. But if I have the number one pick and I have a strong evaluation on one of them, and Justin plays more like the Vikings than he did the Commanders, oh boy, you know what I mean? Like,
Yep.
and everyone's like, oh, he's got 5 games left to prove. Yeah, but he's also had 30 starts. I mean, like, at some point, I hope my GM is smart enough not to evaluate just on 5 or 7. There's a whole body of work here.
Yeah,
and so that has to be considered as well. And I'm not saying that makes me 100% move on. I'm just saying I don't think it's the right logic to only look at the last few games.
Right. Yeah. True.
But there are signs of improvement, and there's another tweet I wanted to read about.
Okay.
From Bear Meatball Nemesis Chase Daniel, and he's the Bear Meatball Nemesis because they can't say his name right. But Chase Daniel, no S. Justin Fields, last 17 games with a patchwork O-line and DJ Moore for only 12. Yeah, and we should note the O-line's been healthy the last 2. That's part of the, saying, hey, they look really good when they're healthy.
Yeah. But
he's talking about back when they were a mess before that. So 2,960 pass yards, would definitely think that's too low. That's got to be higher. But 1,257 rushing yards.
That balances
8 rushing touchdowns. Yeah, but it's still unsustainable. That's
I agree. Yeah,
it's like the Lions game. We all said he was a good game, pretty much, but I don't want him running that much. At any rate, 8 rushing touchdowns, 25 touchdowns passing, 12 interceptions, which is a 93 QB rating. And the total, if you want to do it that way, 4,217 yards. It's still a little low, and 33 TDs. In a league where people routinely pass for 4,000, 4,200 total is still not enough in my book. But he then goes on to say 33 TDs. Justin Fields is capital still, not the problem. And then it's a link to his analysis on YouTube.
Okay.
And I thought it was a good thing to kind of think about, like that the last season long sample is I think a much better way to look at this than just the 5 to 7 game thing.
Yeah.
And I still think the rating is, he's like middle of the league, which compared to a lot of the Bears QBs over the years, you would be like, hey, all right. But you don't win much with that still.
Yeah.
Like, I still want that rating to get closer to 100. And I still want that passing total to be higher because it's sustainability and health and running so much and all the fumbles, right? I mean, the fumbles, my gosh.
That's the worst thing, yeah, by far.
But the point of that tweet for me is some of those numbers do give you pause. Like, it's not just a total mess. It's just really inconsistent.
Yep. And would a new coordinator change any of that? That's hard to give a good answer to. As
well. /coach, yeah.
Right, you're right, yeah. Hopefully, coach. Hopefully, coach.
Yeah. I think we're back to the whole point. Like, all the scenarios in play, the only one that would leave me absolutely infuriated is keeping the coach, drafting a QB.
That's not going to happen.
Keeping the coach, keeping Fields is the next worst.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other two, keeping Fields, new coach or new QB and new coach, really depend on how the draft situation plays out. What if you could just trade down to 2, get a couple firsts, and still pick up Harrison? I mean, you can talk me into that. I don't know if it's my preference, but I don't hate it.
He's the guy in this draft that seems like the sure thing, Harrison. So yeah, I would be okay with that.
Yeah, so I just think with the Fields conversation, yeah, you do have to consider the last handful of games here because they're a part of it, just like the other games. And maybe they weigh a little heavier if there's major progress, maybe, because you could say, oh, it's a step forward or something. But right now, I don't think it's really that clear that he's doing that. And I think it's going to be a very difficult evaluation precisely because you will possibly, very likely, have the opportunity to pick your guy if you're Ryan Poles. And it's not just Justin Fields by himself in the equation. But I'm rooting for him. I want him to play well. I want him to clean up the fumbles, especially, and the processing speed. And some moments we're still getting flashes. This isn't a situation where you're like, yeah, he's just not good enough. It's more like he's not consistent enough. And that keeps that carrot, right? You're still chasing it because it's like dangling in front of you. It's like, what if he does get consistent? Because there are good flashes. So I don't know what you think of all that, but I think it's still a tough sell to think Poles won't want a QB if we get games like the Vikings game.
Yep. Yeah, and like Max's point that he wrote, that do you get this opportunity again as a general manager to take number one quarterback. So if it's hard to, they didn't do it last year, and I'm fine that they didn't do it last year. Bryce Young had lots of concerns just with his size and durability, and there was no way to predict C.J. Stroud was going to have the start that he has.
Yeah, but people are going to start killing him for it. It's still going to come up.
That's not fair.
It's not fair, but it'll happen.
I guess.
Or you could just keep identifying the team that will be trash if you take one of their best players and their future assets and just keep doing that every year.
Yeah.
It's the joke that the Bears are going to have every first round pick in 2028
and keep trading it. Yeah. So
I don't really want them to keep trading it. I wouldn't mind trading our own though if it's like at 4 and Harrison's gone. That's a perfect spot to trade out of.
Yeah. And are there any other?
All the draft stuff is down the road. Like I don't think we can talk about it.
Sorry, I got rabbit trailed. Sorry.
No, you're good.
Yeah.
Okay, hey, so you had a question for me.
I do. So I got this. I said for Fields the rest of the way, I wanted to see 3 great games, 2 good games, 3 great, 2 good, 1 meh. Allow for 1 meh game and allow for 1 bad game. So my question to you. Well, clearly it wasn't a great game for Fields. And even though some of his stats were good, like 73% completion percentage against the Vikings, granted they were like 2-yard passes, but and no interceptions, even though the fumbles. So his rating was like 87 or something like that. So whatever. I think that's a game where eye test is more important than stats. So I wouldn't even give him good for that because of that and no touchdowns. Would you say that was a meh game for Fields or a bad game? Which one of those boxes got checked with that game?
Bad for sure.
Bad? Okay.
Bad for sure. 2 fumbles in the fourth quarter makes it a bad game. You don't have any touchdowns to help mitigate that. It's a bad game. It's nice that it ended on a good note, but that's not enough on balance to move it up to meh.
Okay.
I'd say it's a bad game.
All right, I was going back and
forth. The fumbles are a huge problem.
And when?
That's my stance.
And when they happened, that's
what I mean. 2 fourth quarter fumbles, and I know he takes it hard, but they keep happening.
Yeah, Lawrence Holmes had a great tweet.
But hopefully he calms down now in the fourth quarter. I feel like he's like super nervous out there in the fourth quarter. It's weird. I don't know.
Maybe this
keeps happening.
Get the monkey off. Yeah, but get the monkey off his back.
What were you going to say about Lawrence?
Lawrence, he had a great tweet when that second fumble happened. He said, I don't know if you saw it, but it said that all the potential in the world doesn't matter if you can't protect the ball or can't hold on to the ball. Something along those lines. And that's it.
Yep.
That's exactly it. Yep. How long do we keep waiting for these moments to say, oh, but they're still there. How long can we do that? And maybe, like Parkins said yesterday, just run out of time.
You just run outside, especially when you're sitting there. If you draft the number 1 pick and you like in your polls, right, and you really love one of the prospects, that's just. I think that's just a really likely scenario, and I don't think it's like hating on Fields to admit as much.
Yeah.
All right, so it's bye week. We've got finals coming up. Clearly, we're not recording Friday. We will be back in theory next Friday to preview that game.
Lions,
and then that means we should discuss the relevant games this week.
Sounds good to me.
So as always, we got the Thursday game right, which is tomorrow.
Yes,
and we have then Detroit at New Orleans. Fred is Detroit favored by 4.
Yeah, I think they're going to bounce back after choking against the Packers. And make no mistake, that was a Lions choke job. That was not a...
they were terrible that game.
Yeah, they were terrible, and they lost by a touchdown. So, and I'm sorry, that first pass by Jordan Love totally should have been picked off. It was so underthrown.
And then there was one that it looked like it went through the human being. I don't know what happened on the one. You know what I'm talking about? It was like
I do.
He was really good otherwise. So I'm not trying to throw shade at him, but
he was fine.
The NFL's a funny league. I think the Lions bounce back as well, but they have not played well the last 2 weeks.
Very true.
And it is worth noting.
Very true.
All right, the game that really matters for us 2 of them, which I'm going to start putting these guys in there because they're in the way for Harrison. Arizona at former student Tim's Steelers.
Yes. I am not a Kyler Murray believer. And people said, "Oh, I think he comes back, he wins you a couple of games." They did win one with him. I think that's about it.
What are they going to do to that Pittsburgh defense? They're not going to score much,
right?
Exactly. I mean, I know the offense for the Steelers has been a struggle, but they're gonna basically shut down Arizona offense, right? That's a Pittsburgh win.
Just wait till they
It's going to be tough
Mitch
sledding to find a Cardinals win.
Yes,
until they play the Bears. Okay. The other one that really matters for us, man, there's some interesting games for us in the late slate too. But 305, 1-10, sweet Panthers who love us dearly, who've given us their first round pick and fired their head coach again in the middle of the season. That's kind of their thing. At the thoroughly mediocre Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who, if you rematched right now, you'd probably say the Bears beat.
Yes.
This is a bad one. I don't like it. This is one of those games the Panthers could sneak a win out.
Is that why it's at 305?
I don't think either of these teams are any good.
Yeah. And do they get the bump from Chris Tabor? Chris Tabor is back, Mark. A Chris Tabor sighting, my doppelganger, as the interim head coach of the Panthers. Yeah, go Blue Jays. I told my one of my classes the other day that the interim coach for Carolina is Chris Tabor, and they were like, "Oh!" I was like, "I know, it's practically me."
Maybe give context to people who don't know. The name of your school is
Tabor College. Yes, that's where I teach, in the middle of Kansas, my friend.
So are you going to give him some love and pick him to beat the Buccaneers?
No. Well.
And I know why, because you desperately need the Panthers to keep losing.
Correct.
And they're pretty bad.
Correct. They're pretty, yeah.
In all seriousness, if the Tampa D line does what it's supposed to do, they should win the game without that much trouble. But I'm just a little worried about this one.
Yeah, you often get a little bump, when you get a head coach change, so. Yeah, we'll see. Maybe, I don't know. I got nothing on that one, but I don't. Yeah, I totally agree with you to be weary of Tampa Bay as well in that. So
they're just not that good.
Not that.
All right, Kansas City, the night game. Kansas City at Green Bay. You get Chris Collinsworth and the Packers just for you in prime time. No, please don't go down that rabbit trail. But if Jordan Love has a good game against that defense, that will be impressive.
Yes, and terrifying.
I'm already impressed with his last couple. Yeah, exactly. That said, I do think a lot of these young QBs are a roller coaster, and he's sort of due for one of those roller coastery games that we know all too well. And that Chiefs defense is the best unit in the league on that side of the ball, not best, but they're right there with the other great ones like Pittsburgh and Cleveland and Baltimore. Yep. And I think they've been a little bit underrated because of Mahomes, but I do think that obviously Chiefs favored by 6. I don't think I'd gamble on that game if I was a gambler, but I do think the Chiefs will win it.
I do too.
I could see Green Bay keeping it close though, because the Chiefs always seem to be in these close games lately. Other good matchups this is a funny one. Sorry, what?
No, is Matt LaFleur a good coach?
Yes.
That's what I'm afraid of.
He schemes guys open all the time.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Denver at Houston. They're both somehow 6-5.
That's what? Go back 3-4 weeks ago. No way do you say, "Ooh, Denver, Houston." Ooh. Yeah. Here we are.
Wild card matchup. Playoff contenders.
Here we are. Props to what's his
Russell
name?
Wilson was playing like an MVP candidate, but nobody's talking about it. CJ Stroud legitimately deserves to be one even as a rookie. I think this is a sneaky fun matchup.
Agreed.
They got their TDs to INTs. Wilson, 20 TDs, 4 interceptions. Stroud, 19 TDs, 5 interceptions. Stroud has 1,000 more yards.
That's remarkable as a rookie.
He's already got 3,000 yards.
That is remarkable.
Can't we get a quarterback? God.
Yeah.
I have no idea who to pick here. I think it's fun that they're actually better than anybody thought. That's the only reason I brought it up.
Yeah, I don't know either, but that would be a fun one to check out. Yeah. Probably Denver.
I guess give me the Broncos, but I don't know. I just really don't. All right, 6-5 somehow. Indy, what? 6-5 at 4-7 Tennessee. You say, Mark, why are we picking this mediocre game? Because, Chris, I'm going to this game with the children.
Wow!
Their
Very
school
nice.
had a fundraiser for a football game. My eldest especially is dying to go to one. I said that she could adopt the Titans as her AFC team, so she can talk to her little friends, and she's excited, and I'm like, Colts, Titans. Woo! But it'll be fun. I haven't gone to a live game in forever.
Yeah.
And, watching it at home on your TV is basically a better experience with all the technology these days. But when it's a team that I'm just kind of like, okay, whatever, maybe it'll be fun to just, I don't have to consume it for any real purpose beyond just being there. And hopefully the kids have fun. We don't actually have to pick it, but I thought I'd let you know I will be at a game.
That's cool. Yeah. Are you gonna represent the beloved in your wardrobe at this game?
The Bears.
Or do you not want to get me? Yeah,
probably. Let's check the temp. It might be in a hoodie.
Okay.
Definitely at least a hat.
Okay. Yeah. Well, that's cool. That'll be a lot of fun.
If anything, what we've been getting as Bears fans is sympathy around here. People are like, I'm sorry. It's like, they're not.
Same here.
They don't pick on me. They just feel bad for me. Unless they're Packers fan, which I understand.
Yeah, yesterday people were saying, "Hey, Dr. T, the Bears won." They're like,
yeah. Are you happy they won, Dr. J? I don't know. Maybe. No.
Yeah, sort of. Yeah. Cool. Well, that'll be a lot of fun. Good for you. That's great that you're going to the game.
Yeah. Last time I took my kids to a major sporting event was Cardinals Cubs in 2022.
Okay.
And my then 7-year-old was so entertaining, dancing between innings whenever the music played, that the lady behind us gave her a bunch of money.
Whoa!
This is kind of weird. Yeah.
Wow.
She's like, she's entertained me more than the game. And then the same child said at one point, this is fun. I don't know why people are excited when they're excited, but I join in. She had no idea what was going on, but she liked when people got excited. And I thought, that's good. You can enjoy whatever. I just thought I'd share that. But we'll see if football has the same effect.
Was that at Busch?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, it's so much closer for us.
True.
One thing, but
that's a nice park.
All right, take us out of here.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for listening. We will check in with you before the Lions next week. Enjoy the bye week. Enjoy a Thursday, a Sunday, a Monday of stress-free NFL football, and we'll chat about what the Bears may look like against the Lions next week. Find us on social media at @barely_educated. Send us an email, bearlyeducatedpod@gmail.com. Join our honor roll on our website, buymeacoffee.com/barely_educated. We will send you a free t-shirt as a thank you. Until we speak again, bear down, everyone.
What is wrong with you?
You are reckless.
Just some dipshit from Chicago.
You are indeed a dip from Chicago.
My Chicago Bears.
I love the Bears.